Due to the COVID-19 situation, the Borough of Fairhaven's municipal facilities are closed to the public. This meeting is being presented through the Zoom meeting platform and being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this council meeting of September 14, 2020 is available by call-in phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until public questions comment time, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question, comment by phone or through the Zoom by raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice this meeting was included in a scheduled meeting which was amended by resolution number 2020-99 and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, the Hub, and the Star Ledger on January 9, 2020, posted on the bulletin board, posted on the borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. Allison, roll call, please.
Council members Banahan, Christner Keefe,
Here.
Koch,
Here.
McHugh,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
Okay, we have some items that we need to take care of with high-priced attorneys. So we'll be going into executive session. May I have a motion for resolution 2020-148, executive session to discuss personnel and contract negotiations?
So moved.
Okay, I think I have Betsy, Councilwoman Koch is a second, first by Council President Sorensen. Roll call, please, Allison.
Council members Christner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yep.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, and I notice we have 7 attendees. And I will say that we should be back on air, Teresa, around 8 p.m. we anticipate.
Yes, we're going to close promptly at 7:55 and open the public at 8, so no one's waiting a long time. If we have to go back into executive session afterwards, we will.
Okay, thank you very much. All council members, please put your computers on
Mute and
video off and mute and go to the call-in number. Why do I feel like Maxwell Smart?
go your.
Session, please have a roll call.
Council members Banahan, Christner Keefe,
Here.
Koch. You're muted.
She's there.
She's here.
I'm here.
McHugh,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
And Colleen Lapp, CFO, is here, and Demir Gordella, and Bob Allison, our Borough Auditor.
Okay, wonderful. First up, we have a proclamation, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, because kids can't fight cancer alone. Whereas 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed by their 20th birthday. And whereas 43 children per day, or 15,780 children are diagnosed with cancer annually in the United States, with an average age diagnosis of being 6 years old. And whereas there are approximately 40,000 children on active treatment at any given time. And whereas on average, there's been a 0.6% increase in incidence per year since the mid-1970s, resulting in overall incidence increase of 24% over the last 40 years. And whereas 2/3 of childhood cancer patients will have chronic health conditions as a result of the treatment toxicity, with 1/4 being classified as severe to life-threatening. And whereas approximately 1/2 of childhood cancer families rate the associated financial toxicity due to out-of-pocket expenses as considerable to severe. And whereas in the last 20 years, only 4 new drugs have been approved by the FDA to specifically treat childhood cancer. And whereas the National Cancer Institute recognizes the unique research needs of childhood cancer and the associated need for increased funding to carry this out. And whereas hundreds of nonprofit organizations at the local and national level, including the American Childhood Cancer Organization, are helping children with cancer and their families cope through educational, emotional, financial support. And whereas researchers and healthcare professionals work diligently dedicating their expertise to treat and cure children with cancer. And whereas too many children are affected by this deadly disease and more must be done to raise awareness and find a cure. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Benjamin J. Lucarelli, do hereby proclaim September 2020 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the presentation of the municipal audit review. And with us tonight, we have our auditor, Bob Allison, and joined by our CFO, Colleen Lapp. Bob, please take us through your report, sir.
Okay, I think everyone has the presentation handout that was distributed. I think it'd be a little easier to follow along. We completed the audit a little over a month ago. On August the 6th was our date. We have had an exit conference with the administration probably about 3 weeks ago. We're happy to report that we have an unmodified opinion with regard to New Jersey accounting principles. I'll start off here on page 1 of the financial highlights. What I've done is given you a synopsis of the audit and make reference to certain pages in the audit. So at your leisure, you can go through the thick document and check back on this. So our audit report has 2 different opinions, and that's because the state of New Jersey has municipalities follow an accounting basis, which is different than generally accepted accounting principles. So we have to start off with an adverse opinion, which is a bad opinion, so that people around the country don't look at this financial and think that this is a GAAP financial, because it's not. It is under the basis of regulatory accounting of the state of New Jersey, but under that regulatory accounting, we have an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that you can get. So that's very good. We have another report, which is on pages 5 and 6 of the main report. Because you're a local government, we are required to review your controls, your controls with regards to your finances and compliance with state and federal requirements. We're not required to give an opinion on it, but if we were to find something which we felt was a deficiency in controls or a violation of either state or federal compliance, we would report them to you, and we do not have any findings with regard to that. So that's also very good. When it comes to the numbers, the current fund, which is your main fund, that's the fund that you collect taxes in. That's the fund that you pay just about all of your bills out of. We have fund balance, which is referred to as surplus sometimes, and that has gone down about $223,000. You're still at a fairly healthy level, almost 20%. I like my clients to be around that number. That's the number that rating agencies look at. That they feel that your surplus is healthy when it's around that 20% mark. So you're still there, but as you can see from the little chart I have there, your surplus has been going down since 2017. From 2.4 million to about 2.1 to the current about 1.9. And I know the administration, and I'm sure the governing body is also aware of that, and you're taking action to stabilize that. The chart also shows you how much of your surplus that you've used to balance your budget in previous years. And you can see that also has gone down because you just frankly have less surplus to use. Collection rate is very steady. You're a very stable town with regard to your finances. You don't have large ups and downs, which is good. So your collection rate actually has steadily gone up, 98.85 in 17, 98.95 in 18, and 99.47 in 19. Just some small revenue highlights. Again, you're very consistent. You're very close to your budget. But just some highlights. Your construction code fees was down 71,000 from the budget. Your court and fines were up 11. Your miscellaneous revenue not anticipated, which is money that you don't budget for, that came in about 67,000. And your taxes, you collected more than what you budgeted for, which is typical. You never want to budget for exactly what you think you're going to get, because that could cause you to have a deficit if you don't collect that. And that was $636,000. The next fund, which has nothing remarkable in it, so I don't comment on it or highlight it within this little presentation, is your state and federal grant fund, which you'll find on pages 75 and 76 of the main report. Similarly, the trust fund is also very similar to the prior year. The trust fund is money that's held in trust for things like escrow of developers. Could be some things like shade tree commission or tax premiums and things of that nature. The general capital fund was more active than maybe in previous years, which is not a bad thing. You had 4 new improvement authorizations, though that's the ordinances that you pass in order to do capital projects. Ordinance 19-01, and this is also on page 21, and you'll also find it on these ordinances. You'll also find on page 111 of the main report. You'll have much more detail. So again, it was various improvements. It amended a couple of previous ordinances from 2017 and 2018 for now a total project cost of $4 million. You had another ordinance which also amended some previous ordinances in 2018. The total project cost is now $5.3 million. And then 2 other ordinances that had a total project cost of $200,000, $215,000, and $2,397,000. Grants outstanding. The one thing that we did notice, and we brought it to the attention of the administration, is that there are some grants out there which are a little old, and we should redouble our efforts to make collection on that. We certainly believe that all these grants are collectible. They are mostly construction oriented, so these things do take time, but we just need to be diligent in having the engineers submit proper paperwork to the grant agencies so that we can collect that money. And some of the grants that are outstanding, we have listed there, and what ordinances that they relate to. Monmouth County Open Space is a couple of them. Also is the New Jersey Department of Transportation. And this is not unusual. A lot of local governments will have to wait some time for their grants, but it's just something to keep track of and stay on top of. I've also presented here a little small analysis of what your net debt is. $14 million. You are allowed to have, by state regulations, $61 million. So you are slightly less than 25% of what the state would allow you to have in debt, which is good. So you're not using anywhere near what the state would allow you to do as far as debt goes. And I know that you've recently had some ordinances and some new debt, and that may be new to you, but you're safely in the ballpark as far as what level you're at. Just some other things. This does not affect the face of your financial statement. If you were a GAAP, remember I said earlier, generally accepted accounting principles, which you do not follow. If you did follow, these items that I've listed here would be on the face of your financial, which show you to be in great deficit. If you were to take a look at your local school board's audit, you would see things like this, which would reduce their surplus. And these are new accounting standards, GASB 68 and GASB 75. These relate to pensions, and these relate to other post-employment benefits, which is primarily healthcare. So these are actuarially accounted for. The past few years, these audit reports have been late in getting to you and getting to the state, because the state is the entity which calculates this, and they've only, I think this year, they only released their GASB analysis in late July. And that's why this audit report was completed in August. So what it says is that your PERS, which is your pensions for non-uniform people, is $2.9 million, almost $3 million. PFRS, which is the police and fire, that's about $5 million. And your obligations for other post-employment benefits is about $7.6 million. So if you add that all together, I guess you would call them legacy costs, are about $15 million that the actuaries calculate is what the liability is. Now, this is not something you have to pay. It's not something which that you even amortize or bond for. The state comes up with what your annual payment should be, and they send that to you, and you budget that annually. But it's important information to know because taxpayers and Wall Street would like to know what the legacy costs are for local governments. And that's my brief presentation. I'd just like to say that you have a very good internal staff. Colleen does a great job, and her whole department does a great job, and as does Teresa. You have stability there, which is nice. Not all of my clients have stability in that department, and it's nice to see that you have that, and that you have some strong professionals who are part of that.
Mayor,
Right,
I
Bob.
would like to compliment Bob Allison's office, my financial staff, Colleen, and our assistant CFO and her staff. It was a challenging audit because of COVID, but really they did everything remotely, and a decent amount of work went into it, but it went off, really without a hitch. So everyone's to be commended for a job well done.
Yes, thank you, Teresa. Thank you for mentioning that. Excellent job, all. It's always good to have a clean report, which wasn't the case when Mike Halfaker came in. So I'll open it up to any questions from council members, if there are any. Seeing none, Robert, I'll say thank you very much. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Colleen, thank you for always, and your staff for all your hard work.
Thank you.
We've got a good agenda ahead of us, so we're going to get moving on.
Okay,
Next
thank
up
you,
is-
everyone. Have a good night.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
Good night.
Next
Good night.
up is the
Thanks,
workshop
Colleen.
session. We have a non-domestic animal waiver request for chickens at 444 River Road. There is an application in the packet. I've also received a few emails, and all the application, I guess, looks nice. This one does have complications in so much that, unfortunately, these young chickens, which already exist in a coop, which may be considered an accessory structure, have a tendency to get loose
Oh, no.
and have been found on River Road.
Mayor, do you want me to promote Mr. Decolak?
Yes,
Who is
please.
the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Done.
Hello, Gontran.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Sorry for that.
Hello.
Hear me?
All right, folks. So, yeah, in so much that you have the chickens already, you have the coop already, and you're kind of seeking forgiveness. And
So I did,
the issue we have is that your chickens have been escaping.
First, I would like to mention that I reached out to the town before having the chickens, that we're in the middle of the COVID crisis, and I guess you guys were, you had other chickens to take care of, to say the least. And so my application, my request got lost, and that's okay. For the
Okay,
second
so
point, so I did reach out to the town before the whole thing. The second thing is, so to explain why sometimes my chicken are loose and the effort that I've done around this. So my property has a fence which covers pretty much not the 4 sides, but I would say 3.5 sides. So what I did is I put a little fence, hoping that the chickens would stay in. Unfortunately, so for the part which is missing, and unfortunately, it seems that my chickens are not very quiet. So I have ordered. Can get me the thing that's the box at the right. I've ordered a larger fence, and it has arrived today. So I will install it, and I will segregate. See, I've got it arrived. So I will segregate the area for the chickens so that they can't go out.
all right. So good. And then we have some, again, we just have the issue with the chickens escaping. Is there anybody on the council who has any
That will
feelings on
answer
this?
the issue. That will answer the issue.
Okay. Anybody in the council like to bring this forward for approval?
Well, Mr. Mayor, before you do that, there may be members of the public that want to comment. He did have
Thank
to
you.
know the public.
You did notice the public. So thank you, Sal. So is there any member of the public on the Zoom call right now? You can use the raise your hand button. Any of the members of the public? We have two.
We have two. Annmarie Woods, who I was going to say, she sent that email that I forwarded to the council members, as well as Shelley Garrett. So
Okay.
I'm going to recognize Miss Garrett. She
Okay.
unmutes herself. She can speak now.
Good evening, Shelley.
Hi, how are you guys?
Wonderful.
I'm here to support the chickens.
Okay.
Go chickens. I know I'm from out west and a lot of people have chickens where I come from. And honestly, if there's no rooster, they're quiet, they stay in their pen, and the fresh eggs are so good and good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why most people raise chickens are for to raise fresh eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my family has chickens. Everybody, I grew up with chickens. Everybody out there has them, and it's not a nuisance. You keep them in the pen. If they do get out, if they're jumpy, you clip their wings, or keep them in the pen.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, but they're quiet. You wouldn't even know that they're there. And the fresh eggs are amazing.
Yes.
So that's it. I'm all for them.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley. And then we have Annmarie Woods. Please bring.
Marie's up. She just has to unmute herself.
Good evening, Annmarie. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I have no problem with chickens being raised. My issue is we live on a shared driveway, and the chickens come onto my property, and I don't want them on my property.
Fair enough.
I have 2 teenage boys, or older than that, and with the shared driveway, the chickens have been in the driveway. And my boys, I'd like to say that they're very conscientious when they pull in, but not all the time. And I don't want my children to run over a chicken. I'm not here to deny the application. My thing is, if the application is approved, the chickens cannot roam free. The speaker that just spoke about delicious eggs, it's fabulous, but she did comment, they stay in their coop. So I just would say that if we need an ordinance and you want to have chickens on your property, they must be contained.
Okay. Fair enough.
Fair enough. May I reply?
Let me see if is there anybody else from the public? I'm not seeing anybody, but just give them one more shot. Annmarie, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
I have Councilwoman Christner Keefe has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. I just had a couple of questions for the applicant. I see you have listed 5 chickens. If this application were to be approved, would your maximum chicken count always be 5?
Chicken dies. I have no intention to have a lot of chickens. I would love to have eggs which are a different color, but it's never going to be a large capacity farming situation. These are a few pets. You've seen my kid. The reasons I have that, prophylaxis. So my daughter got Lyme. She's not exactly a person that goes around any places. So I'm sorry to say, but we have Lyme ticks in our area. Okay, that's how she got it. You cannot kill ticks with any chemical product if they don't work. Ticks remain. Chickens are the only way to get rid of ticks. I'm saying that to you. And if there are chickens that are roaming around, it's because there are ticks and there are bugs that are trying to eat. So that's the first thing. The other reason is kids are stuck at home now. Schools are reopening, but at the time when I started, and still now, they are not guaranteed to be at school very often. It's a good experience to see them eggs hatching, little chicks turning into big ones, making eggs as well. It's a cycle of life. It's a pet. They enjoy. They play with it. My young one is right here. He has fun. You've seen the application. He is enjoying those little chickens. And then finally the eggs. I want to say that those I do not want a rooster. Okay, so I'm sure there are animals out there, but it's not me. I do not want a rooster either. I want just a few hens. I put them in a corner so they're not disturbing. None of my neighbors, except Mrs. Annmarie, Mrs. Wood, which could have knocked to my door and talked to me because effectively I'm right there, and she never talked to me. But effectively, all my neighbors have never said anything. Actually, requested signatures, and I can tell you, you would not believe the number of people who have told me, I was raised with chicken. It's so nice. Can you share some eggs with me? People have fun. It's memories for a lifetime. And chickens, those chickens in particular, are very nice. You might consider that some chickens are a bit more aggressive. Roosters in particular, those brands are very, very nice. They can eat in your hands. And we had a couple of neighbors who came, and the young kids were there, and they were playing with them and feeding those chickens. It is never going to be an industrial farming issue. It's 5 little chickens. That's what they're.
Okay.
But I don't think he answered her question. Did you say you were going to limit them to 5?
Yes. So
okay.
It's.
I mean, if one passes away, you need to replace
but
it.
they
Yes,
can die, and sometimes I will replace them. And you never know. If you put eggs in an incubator, you don't know how many you're gonna get out. So.
Right. And then I guess my 2 follow-up questions relate to the size of the chicken coop. I see it pictured here. Can you give us an estimate of the size of the chicken coop?
The coop itself is, I think, 3 feet by 8 feet, which is largely sufficient for 5 chickens. It has several layers so that they have plenty of space in it. I can entirely open a wall so that I can clean up, and I clean up regularly. There's a branch because chickens actually sleep on a branch. They don't sleep laying. And behind there is an enclosed area, which I would say is probably double the length. It's probably 15 feet by 10 feet, something like this, roughly. And what I'm going to do to prevent my chickens to go out, it's not fun for a chicken to be in a prison. So that's why from time to time I let them go out, eat the ticks, eat the bugs, eat crabgrass. You'd be surprised, but they eat crabgrass. So I'm trying to keep them in the place which is between my fence. And since they have a tendency sometimes to go out, no matter what I do, I'm going to put an additional fence so that they cannot go into the shed driveway or anywhere else.
That was my last question about whether or not you're willing to constrain them if you do let them out of the coop. Thank you.
Yeah, I've already, so my house, I built a fence, which is a wood fence, which is your typical size, like 6 feet high. It goes all around except for the shed driveway. So there is an area that shed driveway I cannot put. So what I did is I put a little fence, which was typically a foot high, and I thought that the chickens would be too lazy to jump over it, and that was the wrong calculation. So I'm gonna have to put something higher, and I found something which is probably 3 feet high, and I just have to install it.
Any other questions from the council? Yes, Betsy.
You're muted, Betsy.
Is this coop considered to be an accessory structure? Have we determined that?
You have a report from the zoning officer, and the zoning officer says it's an accessory structure and it needs to meet the rear yard setback. There is no, it's right up against the rear of the property, and the rear yard setback is 10 feet, so it would need to be moved 10 feet from the rear as an accessory structure.
It is not attached in the ground, so it can be moved. This being said, it's not very light. It's not something that you move easily. It's not a fixed structure, if that's answer your question.
Yeah. So, all right, with the caveat that the coop be moved to be inside the rear yard setback and that the number of chickens are kept to 5, does any member of the council wish to come forward with a motion to approve?
Can I just ask a question?
Oh, yes, please do.
What are the consequences if the chickens do escape? Because that was one of the main concerns of
Mrs. Wood.
Mrs. Wood.
This is Sal speaking. This is an annual waiver. So first of all, he would have to apply each year for the waiver, but you have the power to revoke the waiver on 10 days notice at a council meeting if he's not compliant with the conditions you impose.
That's good. Well, then with those caveats, if you want, I'll bring it forward.
Bring it forward. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Christner Keefe seconded. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries. Congratulations, Gontran. You have permission for 1 year to keep your chickens.
Good luck with your
Maximum of
eggs.
5. And please relocate the coop as soon as possible and make sure they stay within your property.
I will
It'd be
send
tragic if they had to
you,
come back.
I'll reach out to you regarding the license with all these parameters that were discussed.
Terrific. Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to PTA scarecrows to be displayed from October 5th to October 19th. This is an annual tradition. I've already purchased my scarecrow. So I would
They
say,
have blanket approval. They just wanted to let you know when they're going up and coming down.
God, they have blanket approval. There we go. DPW site plan review. I'll hand this over to Rich Gardella.
Good evening. The last time we had discussed this, we had talked about, I had shared the one plan that we had from our engineer and architect, and that was, let me just bring that one up. So this was, it's entitled SK26. This particular plan shows the building as it fronts on 3rd Street. So after discussion, I believe it was out of last.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So following this discussion, we had reached out to our professionals to come up with a scheme to show the building in the southerly portion of this site, which is just south of the existing recycling yard and slightly into the wooded area. So we have since received those plans. We actually just got them late Friday with some additional modifications. I'll pull them up. You can just take a look at them visually. I haven't had we haven't had time internally to kind of go through to see if this particular layout suits our needs. But I think the purpose of this was to make sure that if we push the building up in this area, how does everything else kind of fall into place? And then, you know, what type of remaining property we have left here at the north and obviously up at the south area. So this is an additional concept. It shows the building with the garages. There's 5 garage bays, which would be facing north. The building is positioned just south of the existing. This is the existing building here that shows the dashed lines. This is our current recycling yard. So you see that it does go into the existing wooded area there. But it also does provide at least a 50-foot area from the nearest property line for the property on Allen and this southerly property line of where the site would begin. So basically, it incorporates the building. It's a slightly different shape than this one. Obviously, this building was designed to incorporate size and scale to fit on 3rd Street. This one is more rectangular in nature. Once again, this is just a scheme that the architect put together, which incorporates the garage bays, some office space, flex space, bathroom facilities, utility room, break room, etc. And then it also includes employee parking, privacy fence, the site driveway, a recycling area, and it actually incorporates the existing salt dome and fueling station for locations. Obviously, recognizing we have to do some updates on those, and then also the OEM and impound areas shown here, the shed and the pen that we currently have. So this is, once again, this is one concept. We haven't really had a chance internally to go through it, but we just wanted to show you that it is a possibility with the building in this proposed location. And then on this same drawing we have, let me just pull it up. This is another scheme. This shows the building in the southeast corner, but turned 90 degrees. Same exact dimensions, has minimal distance between the existing and what's proposed, so obviously it would be more of a challenge for constructability. It also introduces the two ingress, the ingress and egress like we currently have in slightly different locations, keeping a salt dome, fueling station, these other amenities somewhat similar, obviously, as this one. So the real change here is just rotating that building and seeing if that would be a possibility. So that includes the 3 options: building in this corner, building situated, and once again, this isn't married in a sense where it needs to be put in this left corner. We could probably slide things around, and move some of this parking and what have you. But once again, we really haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of that. And then obviously the current scheme that you're familiar with, which shows it, on the north side of the property. So that's where we're at. The only thing I wanted to add was with this type of layout going into the woods, we believe the stormwater management is going to change because you're going to be clearing some trees, some of this landscaped area. So we think the cost of the stormwater is going to go up because of the DEP regulations as it relates to pre and post construction, design, etc. So at least that's what we think initially, talking with our professionals, our design engineer for the site.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so we'll bring this forward to the facilities committee for them to debate and meet with you, Rich.
Okay.
And basically solidified. Hopefully we can get this plan decided one way or the other, and then at a council meeting soon, we can come up with a binary decision of either having the original structure with the facilities on 3rd Street or this new proposed layout sometime in the near future. So facilities committee, we got some work to do going forward from that. Are there any questions from the council at this point on what they're saying?
Mayor, it's important to note that we've got a facilities meeting tomorrow. The focus of that meeting is for the police department, but we could probably carve out a few minutes to talk a little bit more about this. I met with neighbors in the neighborhood, specifically on Allen, right after the facilities meeting, who gave a bunch of great ideas about the buffer that's on Allen Street, parking, entrance and exit, orientation of the building, and so forth. So I'll share those with the rest of the facilities committee.
Great. Anybody else from the council want to be heard? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Rich, thank you very much. And we'll bring it open to public comments and agenda items. May I have a motion to open?
So moved.
Motion.
Okay, so we're now public comments on agenda items. Anybody who wishes to be heard? We have 17 attendees.
Please raise your hand.
Yep, anybody who wants to be heard, please raise your hand. Okay.
Denise
see it.
Costello,
Denise? Yes.
have to unmute yourself. Denise.
Yeah, okay. So we just have a question about the height of the buildings, the proposed new ones versus the one facing 3rd Street. Are they the same like dimensions, like 2 stories, etc.? I didn't see that discussed or shown.
Rich, could you answer that for us, please?
I haven't seen a schematic or a any type of architectural rendering for the building to the south. The one on 3rd essentially was a 1-story building, having 2 smaller structures on each side of the larger mass in the middle, which were our larger garage bays, and then it really just had a mezzanine internally. Height-wise, I don't recall what that was. I know there was a cupola that was initially proposed, which added some dimension. But as for this other scheme with the building to the south, we don't have anything yet. This is very preliminary. This was more 2-dimensional to see if it would work within the site and the parameters of what we need at DPW from the yard maintenance standpoint, and not getting too much into the architecture.
Mr. Costello, what street are you on?
We're on Allen Street.
14.
Got it. Thank you.
So I guess the answer to your question is we don't know as of yet, but I imagine it's going to be the same height as a 2-story building, somewhere thereabouts. Only because you put the mezzanine in, but the garage bays are rather high, right, Rich? So we can get the larger trucks in to work on.
Yeah, of the 5, we're minimizing. Right now, we have 6 large bays on the current building. We're bringing that down to maybe 2 or 3, and the other ones are going to be a lower, somewhat residential standard to kind of soften it a bit. So the massing of the structure is not going to be similar in nature to what we have now. It's going to be smaller.
So for right now, I think, Mr. and Mrs. Costello, that should have to suffice. But more information will be coming forward before a decision is made.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. John Lomba?
Hi, my name is Rebecca Lomba.
Good evening, Rebecca.
Thank you. We live at 16 Allen Street, right across from the Public Works right now. I realize it's in the very preliminary drawings, but just to throw our words in and say that there does need to be some coverage on our side. If the building is right there, there's so much noise coming from the Public Works right now. My worry is it's going to be right on my doorstep, and with the trucks and the working on everything, it's going to be noisy, and I just want to make sure that we're going to have the coverage in there as far as landscaping and whatever we can do there to lessen the noise. And with the trucks at the Public Works in the winter, they cut them on and leave them on for an hour or so. I guess they're diesel, to warm them up. And the exhaust from that is just choking. So in in the scheme of this, if we can just keep that in mind, that we do need some coverage over here because we don't have the setbacks that Maple has. So it's really right on our doorstep. And as I go out this very night, there are 18 garbage cans, I counted them, on the street for us to look at. And it makes tough egress and up and down the street. So please keep that in mind when you're doing whatever the designs are. And I hope going forward that they're a little more detailed. So, you know, at first I was very upset to see that it was coming to the south end. But, you know, in talking with my neighbors, they said to wait and see what you're coming up with. But I'd like to see what you're settling on, because this came as kind of a whiplash to what you had given out before. So please keep us in mind.
Yes, we will certainly do that. I'm sure the committee will be sensitive to your needs.
And when do you think that those plans might come out and be more detailed? Because obviously the building you put out tonight looks enormous with those banks in there, whereas what you had on 3rd Street looked, you know, the guy had done very nicely. The engineer, you know, they were more aesthetically pleasing, as it were.
Yeah. Well, we're not at that point. We're still trying to figure out where the building goes and which way it's oriented, and then we'll take it to the next step. But I think part of what we're saying now is if we do move the building to the south, it may not be as it'll still be a pleasant looking building. We're not going to build something that's ugly, but there is a concern of the council to save money and may not have it as quite as fancy as when we were facing right up on 3rd Street. You may not want to hear that, but I could say that's certainly the sentiment of some of the councilmen.
The fanciness of the building, at least there could be some landscaping to help us. And also, before Hurricane Sandy, there was much higher. And after Sandy came, it ruined the fence and it was replaced with something about 6 feet tall. And so if may maybe be raised again to a higher height, that might be helpful.
Understood. We will definitely take those comments into account.
Mayor, if I can just address one comment. The reason why we put out preliminary drawings is we had gotten complaints that we had gone too fast and made too many details and too many decisions. So we're trying to engage the public sooner with earlier stages so we can get the kind of feedback that we're getting. So apologies that they are rudimentary and we don't have a lot of answers yet. But I think it beats the alternative, which is a fully baked plan and we come out of the lab and say, look what we invented, and it doesn't fit for anybody. So we're trying to use an iterative process here to get the right solution for the neighborhood.
Well, and to piggyback off of what Chris was saying, it also costs a lot of money to have the architect design something. And if we have all decided that we do not want it at the south end, then there's no point in having him design something. So to Chris's point, we're trying to figure all this out first, and then you'll see the niceties. So really all you're seeing is, you know, a step above back of a napkin, an architect's version of a back of a napkin.
Right. Okay.
But thank you. We'll definitely take all that into consideration. We hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Next up, we have Andy Trocchia.
Hi, Andy Trocchia, Maple Avenue. Just following up on, I guess, 3 prior letters I've sent to the council on this. First of all, Councilman Rodriguez, you mentioned that you have met with the Allen Street neighbors. Do you intend to meet with the Maple Avenue neighbors?
People had reached out to me to meet, and I know that you and I have had multiple conversations as well, but I haven't gotten a lot of requests from folks on Maple, but I'm happy to meet with them too.
Okay, very good. We'll set that up. It seems like the council is considering the location of future residences in the location of the new facility, Public Works facility. I'm not convinced, and I think the council should try and think about convincing the residents on this as to how this makes sense in the long term. We build homes with children, and we have to educate those children, and it costs significant dollars to educate them, and we have a great school system. However, our tax dollars for these individual homes won't cover that. So I for one, would suggest you locate the building where you think it fits best without the consideration of future residences, allowing that area to be a buffer space versus a future tax drain. I'm happy to see that you've considered a third option, in addition to the north and south, something more similar to what we have now. As I've mentioned in my prior correspondence, the building is obviously a concern to the neighbors, but all the activity on the site, as the lady on Allen Street had just mentioned, is more of a concern. And currently situating the building as it is now, it acts as a buffer, at least to the Maple Avenue folks, to the sound of the activity on the site. So I'm glad to see that there's a third option in consideration. I am also, and I've mentioned this several times before, curious how we've decided how big this building is, since I haven't to date seen any kind of a building needs analysis, telling the governing body that a building of this size would satisfy your needs. In prior presentations, we are hearing about OEM trailers, and we're hearing about an impound lot. I'm not quite sure how that relates to the Public Works and why that isn't in the new police facility design. I'm also curious as to why the recycling drop-off has now been relocated to the Maple Avenue side. As all you folks know, I have many questions on this issue. I haven't been responded to as far as my correspondence has been concerned. I'm not sure. You know, I don't speak at these meetings often, and this isn't the way I typically like to handle things, but I think it's time for you, the council, to be a little more transparent with the decisions that are being made without the public's knowledge.
All right. Any other comments or discussions with what Andy said?
I don't know that any decisions have been made. We're still formulating ideas here, and thank you for your feedback, Andy.
Thank you.
And Andy, although you may not have gotten a point-by-point response, your concerns have been raised, and they are in the in the mix of what we are discussing. Next, we have TC.
Good evening. Hi, Tracy.
Good evening,
Cole.
Tracy.
Hi, everyone. Tracy Cole, Grange Ave. I spent some time today looking at the ordinances for the fair share housing. There hasn't been any discussion. You're going to introduce the ordinances tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. I was hoping you could, there's a particular part, perhaps not the most important. I should back up and just say, I know everybody's worked really hard on this. And I know that I believe everyone's intention is to try to do the best they can for Fairhaven. And I was hoping you could take a minute, whoever is the right person to ask. I don't know I know Chris has spent some time on this. Perhaps Councilman Rodriguez, you could address my question. It's affordable housing overlay. I assume that's what AHO is. There's 5 separate overlay categories in the bulk standards charts. Is AHO 5, there's a lot of not applicable in sort of the bulk standards. Can you speak to what that AHO 5 is compared to the other ones? Why is that treated so differently?
What do we have here? I don't know if Teresa could handle that. The AH05 is the 3 lots.
Is it
That's the
specific
church.
parcel?
The
That's
church
what-
site.
That's the
That's
church
the
site.
church site.
And
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, that helps. And then just generally, because I don't want to get too far in the weeds, are most of the bulk standards generally, is it perceived to be 2.5 stories with as generous a setback as possible? I realize there's some 12, some 15, some, and then is the front yard 150 linear feet? Is that continuous wherever there is going to be an affordable housing scenario? It'll be 150 feet, which seems long, but I understand where that came from initially.
I believe that the 150 feet was actually a reduction from the initial draft of 300. So you can't, a building cannot be more than 150 feet in the case that several properties are assembled.
So 150 feet is approximately 5 30-foot storefronts, which is typical, say, in Red Bank, a 30-foot storefront or a small town storefront. Anyway, I'll just share one concern, and perhaps everyone on the governing body feels the same way, that 150 feet could, start to feel like a small strip center if not executed well.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also
That's my-
consideration to the residences above and how many units you can get, but I could say it was a limitation down from what was originally proposed.
So thank you for your time. I just wanted to make sure I understood it properly.
There you go. Thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the public wishes to be heard? Seeing none, motion to close.
so moved.
Second.
Okay. Approval of minutes, August 17, 2020, regular meeting, and August 17, 2020, executive session. Motion offer.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please. Allison, you're on mute.
I got it.
You got it.
Councilmembers Christopher Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
August 25th, 2020, special meeting. Motion offer.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Christopher Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, old business, 2020 capital bond ordinance, River Road, county paving and bike lanes. This is the proposal or ordinance, so we can go out and bond. The approximately, was it $20,000, Teresa? For
Oh,
the
it was a total of 800,000 in what was under review or recommendation. Basically and fundamentally, I sent a follow-up memo dated September 11th from the one I had sent prior to our last meeting, which was August 14th memo. In the backup to that memo, I had various spreadsheets. The recommendation for the Public Works piece of equipment that's a street sweeper came from Rich Gardella, Director of Public Works. The borough has had a street sweeper traditionally for many years. I believe about 2015, it was no longer able to be repaired, and we went with a shared service for a couple of years, and we went with an independent contractor. But one of the things our residents do ask for on a regular basis is street sweeping. So for the governing body's consideration is whether or not you want to fund that piece of equipment. We also are proposing some additional drainage money, and this is above and beyond what I have in that separate spreadsheet that shows the road and drainage projects that we either have in queue or have already authorized. That essentially is for a completion of some drainage work down in the Buttonwood area that Rich Gardella went over at the last meeting. And then we have in the roads, we have in Hanson County an additional $250,000. That's a $600,000 project, and we received a very generous $350,000 grant from the NJDOT. When you read the bond ordinance, it will say 600,000, but they will back the grant out of it in that amount. And then we have some street completion work to be done on Hunting Lane that Rich Gardella went over at the last meeting. And that total for this year is $800,000, which is comparatively low to what you've seen on the spreadsheet that you've approved in prior years. It's the lowest since 2016. So if the governing body can give me guidance at this meeting, I can turn around then and turn this over to bond counsel, and they would write a bond ordinance along with the CFO for it to be introduced and otherwise adopted in the normal fashion.
Teresa, this is Susan. And you were going through them awfully fast, but I didn't see on there, or I didn't hear you say anything about like small projects and knock out a few things such as, sidewalks on Fairhaven Road, things like that.
Well, if you look at that other spreadsheet, Susan, the one I had done for road projects, we do have
some money in there.
Yeah, we do have some general monies left over from prior ordinances, 2018-21, and we have a balance there that we can utilize if you so desire. But you also could add to that, if you wanted to move forward with some of that, you could put additional funding towards those other projects.
Well, I think that those would be things that would be very beneficial, as well as some things on the former River Road that could be fixed that we could put all together. Sidewalks, I mean.
Right.
So,
and that estimate from Rich was $150,000. That would draw your balance down in your current roads ordinance to, you have $480,000 left in there. So if you go ahead and authorize that, that'll take your 2018 ordinance and almost draw that down. There's different schools of thought. Sometimes, there's a thought that I think when Rich Gardella first came here, I don't know, Rich, would you have like $2.5 million in a road authorization, and you drew down off of that over time?
Yes.
And then sometimes governing bodies will say, instead of doing that, they're going to allocate $500,000 a year for road or specific numbers for roads. So, you can, the bottom line is any authorization, you ultimately will make the decision on what you want to go out to bid on at the time. So, you could sit with this at 800,000 now, or you could move that up a little bit and add another, 150 or so for, some sidewalk improvements to it and still leave a little bit of balance in the fund. It's also important to have something left there, because when you're in a road project, sometimes something will pop up where the governing body, decides they want to do something, like when you guys decided you wanted to increase the paving area on 3rd Street. Or sometimes we'll have an issue like we did on Hunting Lane where we had a collapse in a pipe. So, having drainage money available, road money available, does serve a purpose. And the governing body still has other steps beyond this bond ordinance authorization that gives you the ability to control what you ultimately spend.
Got it. All right. So Betsy Koch, Councilwoman Koch.
Teresa, I have a question. The street sweeper that you were referring to, I know at one point we discussed about an interlocal agreement with other communities. Did anything ever come of that?
We had an interlocal agreement for 2 years, I think. Rich can expand on that. With Rumson, it becomes, it didn't give us a lot of as much street sweeping bandwidth as we would have liked, and the timing was such that coordinating it with all the other things that went on in the borough, it became a challenge for both towns.
And
okay.
Special personnel to run that machine, or can members of our DPW operate it?
Members of our DPW can operate it. Just getting into the sweeping aspect of it. So per DEP, we have to sweep our downtown district at least once a month. And that's something I have to report on an annual basis. We have to also report the amount of cubic yardage we pick up, where we dispose of it, how we handle it, etc. And then obviously the townwide sweeps, as it relates to brush collection, leaf collection, etc. The other thing we need to do is clean. We need to inspect and clean all of our catch basins. We probably have about 300 catch basins throughout the borough. The sweepers that we're looking at now have that apparatus, which also provides a back system. So it'll be kind of a 2-in-1 machine. It won't just be street sweeping. It'll also allow us to clean out the catch basins.
That's
So
good.
we had an interlocal. It was a per day price to vac out the catch basins. That was with Rumson. And then we also had the street sweeping piece of it. And it was about $800 a day for street sweeping and about $850 a day for the catch basins. So that's what I wanted to add regarding that. And yes, we can handle that with current personnel. You don't need any special.
Or at least contemplated personnel, because we always have contemplated having a 9+1 in DPW.
Sure.
Rich, just to piggyback off of that question and your answer, what, if you know, I guess I'll use 2019 as an example, what did it cost the borough to pay Rumson for that interlocal?
Actually, in 2019, we outsourced it privately, just for a few reasons. And even with that, it becomes a management issue.
Right.
Because during the summer months, we have garbage collection twice a week. So we've got gray cans out basically 4 days a week. And then we have recycling 52 Wednesdays all year. So you've got the challenges of coordinating an outside vendor or even another municipality to follow a schedule. And then you've also got piles of brush and leaves everywhere based on what zones we're picking up. So, and you throw in a couple county roads and special events and parades and all that other stuff. You know, it became to a point we were managing it where we thought, all right, we're going to outsource this. It's going to take maybe Nick and I out of the loop somewhat. We're paying for the service, but then we just kept getting pulled back in because, you know, the scheduling logistically was just not working out.
You would see them going down the street and going around the brush piles.
Right.
So
there's
insane.
So by having our own borough vehicle, it increases efficiencies. I guess I'm just looking for for example, in 2019, what did it cost to outsource it privately? Just, for any comparison's sake.
I think we budgeted about $20,000 for the outsourcing.
Yeah.
For the year. And
Yes.
what's the useful life of a street sweeper?
The last sweeper we had was in 1997. And we retired that probably, Teresa, was it like 2015-ish?
I was going to say, I thought it was 2015.
2015.
So we definitely extended the life of it. There is maintenance that's involved, but if you do the regular maintenance, you winterize it properly. We also stored it inside as much as we can. So all that helps with the life of it.
Okay, thank you.
And you're muted. Mayor, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. Any other discussions?
Do I have any kind of consensus, of moving forward with these items as laid out, or that plus some additional money for roads and sidewalks on top of that?
Teresa, I just have one question with respect to the items that you propose including in the bond ordinance. Funding for River Road West is not included here. Where are we anticipating, or how are we anticipating funding that?
You already approved, we already authorized the funding for River Road West, Meg. I'll give you a bond number on that. I think it was 2018. But that was previously authorized by the governing body.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to add a minor road maintenance to it. I mean, or whatever, to do the sidewalks, or are you saying that it's better to take it off of that other fund, Teresa?
you know, it's like I said, you're not gonna, you know, if you wanted to make this an even, you know, million and put the extra $200,000, maybe put 50 into drainage and another 150 into roads and sidewalks. You know, you're not going, it's never going to go to waste. You know, it'll next year you'll be saying how much more do we need for roads and sidewalks, and if this year's number in total now is sitting at you know, you figure 325 plus 150, and you want to add a little extra to that, you know, you're probably sitting somewhere about my projection of somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year that you're going to dedicate to roads, and another, you know, 200 average in drainage on an ongoing basis would be my inclination. And then Rich can speak to that if he wants to, but you know, that you know, that's why we put it out into a 5-year plan, and so you can look back and see what you've authorized and what you spent, and then get an idea of what you want to maybe take a look at going forward.
And understand, authorizing is not spending. It gives you the ability to do so, but the dollars aren't out yet. So.
Oh, good point, Ben.
All right, so
I think that's a great plan.
Okay, so you want to bring it up to around $1 million? All right.
Yeah.
So let me have a
project that need to be done.
any other discussion on that? Questions? Seeing none, may have a motion for the capital bond ordinance to round out at
So
$1
moved.
million. And
So
give
moved,
that-
Mayor.
Give that. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll get that to John Kidsluber's office and Colleen Lapp, and we very well may have it on the next agenda for introduction. If not, it'll be on the first meeting in October.
Okay. The next old business is does that include the River Road County paving and bike lanes?
No, that's next, and that's like I
Okay.
said in my email, there's a reason why we have to make a decision. I have a bond ordinance, I mean, a traffic parking ordinance that we'd have to pass, and we also would have to approve an agreement with the county. And considering the timing, we need to get moving on those at the next meeting, or at least on the ordinance piece of it.
All right, so to recapture, we had 2 borough residents volunteer a significant amount of time, Gail O'Reilly and John McCormick, who have tremendous expertise in the field. They took the base maps provided by Rich Gardella in our engineering department and created a bicycle pedestrian plan for River Road from border to border. This plan has been sent on to the county. They've reviewed it. They've come back. They have comments. Rich has a fair amount of work, but still can get it done in the proper amount of time. What we'd be doing is authorizing roughly, was it $20,000 out of 39 for our 50% share of the paint and sign costs. All right, and in addition to that, we would be calling for a prohibition of on-street parking from Hance Avenue to Grange Avenue. There are no marked stripes, no marked on-street paving parking spaces will be removed with this plan. It does call for bike lanes from Hance Road all the way to the Red Bank border. I have spoken with Mayor Mena. He has his Complete Streets group looking at doing the design or beginning the design to carry the bike lanes into downtown Red Bank. They seem to be very excited by this prospect. So this will be the second step or second rail, so to speak, of a bicycle pedestrian network throughout town. I believe the next step would probably be Lake Avenue and Harrison Avenue may be the next leg that would take us north and south, and then Lake Avenue when the time comes, and then perhaps when we get to Fairhaven Road and Buena Vista, we will continue this network that will all conjoin, with our current 3rd Street plan going forward. So with that, are there any questions from the council?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd just like to reiterate my opposition to
Mhm.
a Sharrow situation on River Road. I'm happy to go through my reasons again, but I thought I presented my case at the last meeting.
Mhm.
But I just think between the numbers of driveways, the number of cross streets, the number of streets that open onto River Road, plus the amount of material that's actually on the shoulder of the road, whether in the summer it can be, depending if it's Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday, trash cans, recycling cans, leaf, brush, bulk pickup. There's a lot of activity that takes place on the shoulders of River Road. And I think by adding and encouraging bikers along River Road doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it's a good idea, and I cannot support that idea.
We understand and respect your opinion, Betsy. Thank you.
Yesterday, Mayor, may I make a comment? Yesterday,
Yes, please.
Cub Scout Pack 127 educated 30 children, girls and boys, about bike safety. We did a rodeo in the United Methodist Church parking lot and also the Nativity Church parking lot. We also took a ride from Nativity over to Yacht Works, and we utilized Fairhaven Road. We utilized River Road. So I got a real life experience with young children, 10-year-olds, riding their bikes not on the sidewalks, but rather on the street. And we taught them how to use hand signals. I got a real life dose of why it was actually, confirming why I think people need to be more aware of bicyclists. They all wanted to go to Tavolo, they wanted to go to Lupo, they wanted to go to the deli, and they will be on these streets. They will be either on the streets or on the sidewalks, and ultimately they're going to be there. I believe that it's best to alert motorists. I'm not willing to concede River Road to motorists only. I do think there should be signage and lines to raise awareness and create safe buffers for these cyclists. You're on mute.
Oop, thank you. There we go. Thank you, Chris. Any other council members like to be heard on this?
I just have a question for Teresa. A request was put out by the governing body to the county to reduce the speed limit to 25. Has there been any response in that regard?
Response that they were running the study, Councilwoman. I had shared those emails with the governing body from Joe Attor's staff. I believe, as my memory serves me correctly, they thought they would have something back for us sometime in October. They're not tying that review to the bike lane piece of it. They conduct an independent review. I don't think, if the chief's still on the call, he might tell us if he's heard from anybody, but I haven't got anything official back from them.
And the only thing I'll add to that is it becomes almost a chicken and the egg. Typically what the study is, they'll lay the speed, the speed sensors along the road. And then what they do is they measure the speed. They get to the 85th percentile of that. And they kind of let the traveling public determine what the speed limit should be. The idea of the sharrows and the bike lanes are really there to communicate and convey the rights and obligations of all those utilizing the road, to bring order and understanding and awareness that, to the vehicles, that they're not just the only ones who are allowed to use the road, and to the cyclists, to give them a sense of where they should be, especially with the sharrows, not all the way out in the middle of the road, but far enough away from the vehicle so when a door opens up, they don't get doored and cause a crash. That said, once the facilities are in, you perform the study, then typically this all has a general traffic quieting, slows everybody down a little bit. And typically what will happen is after the facilities are in, if we choose to go that direction, then if you perform the test, then the speed limits will be probably appropriately dropped to the 25 that I believe we are seeking. But we'll leave that up to the county engineers. And if we have an indication that we're going in the direction of the sharrows and bike lanes, that'll probably assist them in their decision. Okay. Any other council?
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Should the council vote on going ahead with sharrows on River Road, I would ask that we talk to the county about trimming back some of the trees, because about 3 weeks ago, Mr. Fuller and I walked up and down River Road, and at all the major intersections, especially Hants Road and Fairhaven Road, the trees have overgrown the actual pedestrian crossing signs, as well as signs alerting bus routes, evacuation routes, and all of that. So I would ask that at least we do something about uncovering those signs and making it much more visible to bikers.
Very good
That's a
point.
great suggestion.
Very good point, Betsy. Thank you. So any other questions, comments? Seeing none, may I ask for a motion?
Mayor, wait, the chief wanted to speak.
Oh, Chief.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, no, I just wanted to, what the Borough Administrator asked. Yeah, we sent the letter to him, I guess probably about 6 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and I have not heard anything either. They said they were going to work on it. And like the Borough Administrator said, they promised something in October. So we have not heard nothing back from them.
Okay, thank you, Chief. All right. Any council person like to bring this forward? We have a motion?
Motion.
A motion, may have a second?
Second.
Second. Allison, is this a roll call or just a general all in favor?
It's a general in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
One opposed. Thank you, Betsy. All right, we're moving ahead. Fairhaven's going to have bike lanes. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, new business. Here we are, 9:18. We're to new business. God bless. Finance, Councilman Banhan is not with us this evening. Personnel, Councilman Christopher Keith. I think you've been quite busy as of late.
Let's see. No, we have not been terribly busy. Let's see.
Emails, contemplating busy. Setting up meetings, excuse me.
I'm sorry?
We've been
Contemplating
setting up
busy.
meetings.
Yes, contemplating busy.
Yes.
No, the only busyness I would have to share relates to comes up within the scope of fair share housing, where we will need to appoint a Teresa, remind me, what is the proper title?
Municipal Housing Liaison.
Thank you, Municipal Housing Liaison. So the committee is exploring a borough employee to fill that role, which is a part-time additional duties and responsibilities in connection with our fair share.
Okay, great. Thank you. Planning and zoning, Councilwoman Koch.
Well, tomorrow night we have a planning board meeting where the main focus of our agenda will be on the housing element and fair share plan. We're also going to have a second meeting on September 22nd to continue that discussion and to review the ordinances that are proposed. Our last zoning board meeting was purely administrative discussion, and their next meeting is October 1st.
Thank you very much, Betsy. Police, fire, and OEM, Councilman McHugh.
Right, thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick updates. We've certainly had our fair share of active COVID cases, but I'd like to share that relatively good news. We only have 2 active cases right now. So, you know, I spoke with some of the other policemen, and you know, they continue to say we in Fairhaven are doing a pretty good job. So let's keep it up. In other news, looks like calls for service are getting back to normal. 13 for EMS, 28 for fire. Total almost 900 calls for the month of August. So everyone is getting back and being busy and keeping our town safe. So I appreciate that to the chief and our first responders. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Mike. Engineering, DPW, Borough Facilities, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. As you heard earlier, we're deliberating and contemplating and drafting site plans and soon-to-be building designs for the DPW. We have a meeting tomorrow, as I mentioned briefly, about the PD. So that'll be the facilities committee only tomorrow with the chief and our architect. We're also looking into a rec center, the idea of a pavilion or an outside portion where camps and people can be sheltered when watching games and using the park was also floated. So we're considering those kinds of things as it relates to a rec center there. We also will attempt to increase parking as a result, which is also a consideration for the park, especially where there are games and it's tight on parking. So that's those are the facilities updates beyond what we talked about earlier with the DPW. As far as the brush site is concerned, we did a grind, a processing of the materials from the storm, which were 100% our own. Nothing came in from Rumson, but we also had other collection material previous to the storm. I think we're wrapping up that operation today, tomorrow.
It's finished, Councilman. Wrapped up today.
Some of those trunks were some of the bigger debris that couldn't, practically be processed on site was just removed. So things are back to normal. It's my understanding people were concerned about safety as they have been in the past in terms of the removal. I want to thank the chief and his people for what they do. It's beyond thankless, and it's a big operation. So I want to say thanks to the PD for the help on logistics. And as you know, we have a brush committee. We've met a number of times and have drafted a survey which will go out to town for a bunch of different ideas about the current process and future processes and the different options we have before us. Councilwoman Koch is on that committee. I'm on that committee. It takes time to get the survey right. We're contending with fair share housing ordinances, and we're contending with the rebuilding of 3 major buildings in town. And so there's a lot of things that we're all competing on time for. So things are moving slower than we would like, and apologies to the people who want it done faster. We all want it done faster, but we want to do it right. We want to get the right solutions out there, and we want to get people's opinions and feedback. So that survey is coming soon in the next couple of weeks. We should have that out and get people's feedback. And then lastly, I know we had chickens on the agenda earlier, and this has nothing to do with chickens, but I mentioned Cub Scouts and the bike rodeo that we did, and there was an idea because of COVID, folks are uncomfortable leaving the area for camping, and we have a number of Cub Scouts and families that are interested in camping, and we'd like to petition the council to allow us to do one overnight, no fires, no cooking, but one overnight in Fairhaven Fields for a camp out. And this is done in Little Silver. It's done in other towns. And we'd like to request the utilization of the recreation facility as a...
We're doing, Chris, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think the rec committees, we always do a camp out, and I think we're gonna try to do it this year. Okay. So I don't know if you want to have a separate night.
I think it would make sense, because we have to do a number of requirements to get these kids moved from Cubs to Scouts, and so there's going to be a bunch of distractions that I'd like to keep away from all the other folks that'll probably need to, would just want to be there camping. So I will get more information. I just wanted to, in this new business section of the meeting, wanted to float the idea. If people were open to this, then I would put the proposal forward to the rec committee and Council President Sorensen.
I think it's great.
Okay, thanks.
Anything to keep these kids outside.
Mayor, I am complete. I am done.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. I'm off mute. Parks, Recreation, Communications, Councilman Sorensen.
Okay, I don't have a lot. Just wanted to state that the Recreation Committee met and we talked about some guidelines regarding participation at outdoor events. The children have been fantastic. The athletes have been really great. The parents have not been social distancing very well. and they've not been wearing masks, and they've been, sitting on the bleachers and et cetera. So there's some new guidelines that are going to be going into place. As a matter of fact, we're taking the bleachers away, and the bleachers will only be used for an extension of in baseball specifically, an extension of the bench. We're just putting some additional things in place. We don't want, a lot of our neighboring towns have stopped doing all sorts of outdoor activities for the children, and we don't want to be like that. We want to allow our children to continue to be active outside. And so please, please, please be mindful of that, and don't be the parent that ruins it for everybody. And to Councilman McHugh's, we're down to 2 COVID cases, so let's keep it there, and let's get to 0. And so those are just some guidelines from the Recreation Committee that came out. Another thing is you're going to be seeing some communication coming out called #TakeAwayTheBait. Our Chief McGovern said, we've been having a lot of, people leaving their fob key, fobs in their cars, and there's been a lot of thefts. So, the bait is the fob key. So if you keep that away, if you take that away, they're not going to steal your car, or chances are they're not going to steal your car. So please be mindful of that, everybody. They're coming in, at night by train. They walk down here, they're taking your car. Don't let it, don't make it easy on them. And then lastly, there is a Fairhaven Natural Area Committee meeting this Thursday via Zoom. And so we'll get that information out to everybody if anybody would like to join. And that's all I have. Communications has been great. We just continue to provide additional communications every week. Thank you.
Today's
Thank you, Susan.
constant contact included the meetings for this week as well.
Did it have the Zoom information though?
I
For
believe
the
Diane
Thursday?
did
Oh, it
include
did? Good.
yes.
Yeah, it did.
I thought it did, but I wasn't positive,
Yep.
so thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I now got introduction of ordinances. Thank you, Susan. Introduction of ordinances 2020-05 through 2020-010. We have to do them individually. So 2 volunteers, one to make motions, one to second.
But can I ask
Okay.
a question? Oh, I'll wait till we get to it. I have a question on one.
Okay, so we'll go through 2020-05, establishment of an affordable housing ordinance. Motion to offer. We got Betsy.
Betsy, I'll second. Betsy, you gotta come off mute.
So moved.
Second. We got a second. Roll call, please.
Council members Christner Keefe, Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Going for the next one. Meg, you're on mute.
Okay.
2020-06.
We have to
creating-
announce the public hearing date, Mr. Mayor.
Announce the public hearing date, please.
The 28th.
It's September 28th, 7 p.m.
We can't do a global, everything will be the 28th. Okay,
Yeah.
2020-06, create an affordable housing mandatory set-aside ordinance. Motion to offer.
So moved.
Second.
We got a second. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Council members Christner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
2020-07, create a habitat rezoning ordinance. Motion to offer.
So moved.
Second.
Second, any questions? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Council members Christner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, 2020-08, that will also be on the 28th. Create an
Yep.
affordable housing overlay ordinance. Motion to offer.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing
No,
none, roll call, please.
Council members Christner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
2020-09, create an affordable accessory apartment ordinance. Motion to offer.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none,
No.
roll call, please.
Council members Christner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, that will also be the 28th. 2020-10, create an affordable housing development fee ordinance. Motion to offer.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions? No?
No.
May I have a roll call, please?
Council members Christner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, that will also be on the 28th. Consent agenda resolutions 2020-149 through 2020-162.
This is where I
Anybody
had a
want-
question, Mayor. Sorry.
Yes.
I jumped the gun before. 2020-150, the refund cash performance bond balance at 20 Gillespie. Is
Yes.
that the final bond?
They
Yes.
already, they submitted their 2-year. This was additional money that was being held in escrow that finance brought to my attention.
So this is their final then?
No, they still have a 2-year maintenance
They
bond.
still have their 2-year maintenance bond that they posted. This is outside of that. That is to be returned because they completed what was required. We have a separate bond. This is cash that they posted at the very beginning, 10, 12 years ago.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Well, everybody's all good with the go with consent. May I have a motion offer?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Christopher Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Department reports, June 2020 Chief Financial Officer, July 2020 Chief Financial Officer, August 2020 Municipal Clerk, Dog License, Planning and Zoning Board, Police Department. Budget status. Motion to accept is submitted.
So moved.
All right, and we have a second from Betsy. All right. Go to the borough. Please do you use the raise your hand. Identify yourself clearly by stating your name and address. For the record, please observe a time limit of 3 minutes. May I have a motion to open?
So moved. And Mayor, may I say something?
Yes.
Oh, well, I don't know
Absolutely,
if we had a second.
Second.
We're now.
Oh, okay. I
in
didn't know if
the
we had a
borough.
second. Okay. I just wanted to say that I had the privilege of helping out and volunteering at the AME church over the weekend. And I thought it was going to be a painting party, but it was a scraping, well, it was a painting party eventually, but it was a scraping party. And it was really great. A lot of neighbors came out and a lot of volunteers, and it was the true spirit of what Fairhaven is all about. And it was really great. And drive by, the place looks fantastic. A nice improvement to Fisk Street. That's all I needed. That's all I was going to say.
Well done.
It was fun.
Well done, well done. All right, I'm showing one hand, Chris Hempstead. Teresa, please promote him. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council.
Good evening, Chris.
What do you have good to the borough?
Chris, you're on mute. Chris, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Yeah, you put yourself back on mute.
He just disappeared off my
He was
screen.
promoted to panelist.
Is that
so-
better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if that's better.
There he is.
Okay.
There he went.
All right. Thank you. I've had some dialogue already with some individuals. So the basic premise of my presence here tonight is to establish with the broader council an idea that I'd like to put some energy behind on a personal level, in terms of giving my time, but also to work with the borough professionals and to establish what could be an opportunity for the Board of Education in the sort of rear part of their construction project to join arms with the Borough of Fairhaven and perhaps improve the drop-off and pickup area immediately outside of the Sickles School. The general premise of it is to view the property line of the Sickles School and carry that out across Willow Street into the 20-foot easement of the of the open space. There is a sketched drawing that I've done with some the best I could do, not being a planner, to give you a general idea of what those metrics would look like. It's my estimate that we have roughly 88 feet of width. If the school uses some of their property, not all of it, obviously they're going to need to require adequate spacing for the school, sidewalk, for the handicap access, and for some of their plans already. But if they use some of their property and bring it in towards the school, and we use some of our property or some of our open space and bring it out into the park, I estimate that we can get as much as 88 feet of width and oh shoot, I might have it wrong, but I think it's about 360 feet of length. And I've done a couple of overlays. I compared it with the size of the parking lot at Acme, the size of part of the parking lot at the Fairhaven Fields. I also think we can create a safe easeway or right of way for the students who arrive at Sickles, because we would have ample space to create a natural buffer of probably 15 or 20 feet from the park to the school property. So children would never be crossing an active roadway. They would always be crossing onto school property on a non-active roadway. It would actually be a natural buffer. And I also think it improves the safety and flow of traffic for emergency vehicles and access for both the school and for Willow Street. Some things to admittedly address as we sort of kick this idea around the table is that, yes, indeed, that probably would be a negative impact on traffic on Fairhaven Road. But I think that part of this whole discovery process would be, yeah, that's the overlay of the park and Willow Street. But right, so I think part of the idea would be to weigh the pros and cons of what that might look like. So a traffic study would presumably be a part of that as well. So, again, this is obviously extremely preliminary. Thank you, Teresa, for your guidance to date. Obviously, it's not official. That's why it's part of Good of the Borough, but I'd certainly like to take the next steps and get in motion now while the school project is in motion, while they have budget to work on their road, on their school front improvements. They still don't have a safety and traffic plan in place yet for the finish of the project. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to sort of get in motion on this. Even if, look, at the end of the day, if it looks like it can't be done and the professionals all agree this is, a good idea, but it'll never work, but we do need to sort of get it going to get to that point. I'm confident that I think it's got some legs, but again, not being a professional, I'm humbly requesting that you tell me what I need to do to take the next step to get this as an official discovery process.
Okay. Oh, Chris, there you go. Thank you for that. And for your attempts at civil engineering. You actually did a pretty good job. But I'd say this, we've already taken the next step. Your drawings and design concepts have been presented to the superintendent, and I've had conversations with him. He will be discussing that with the engineers. And if your concept has merit, I believe he'll be bringing it forward to the Board of Education for their consideration, because it does impact their property on the front of their building. We've already mentioned to the Board of Education that we're willing to have them take over some of the right-of-way that is now grassed area to expand their parking, which addresses a lot of concerns that we have in that area as far as their teachers parking, in the general neighborhoods and utilizing the municipal parking lot, kind of taking away shopping opportunities for some residents. So we thank you for bringing that forward, and it is in the works.
If I could ask, with respect to the Board of Ed, being that they only have some of the property, they would need to, they're going to have to sit back on the borough's recommendations, right? We can't give them Willow Street, and they certainly can't represent the borough for the open space if it were to be used.
Well, we can only, we're not going to give any of the open space. What we will agree to do is to go up to our right-of-way line, because going into the open space after examining that issue, we have county dollars. We have a long process to go through, and it's just too difficult. And I also, the general tenor of the council is to not give up a square inch of parkland.
Okay, well that's new, because I think in one of the previous council meetings there was talk about going into the parkland officially, not just out in front of the school, but out on the other edge of the park and whatnot. So
that concept went like a lead balloon.
And we are, the borough attorney is working now on the deed of open space easement with the county attorney for McCarter Park as part of the closeout of that grant. We expect to have that done in the next few weeks. And that clearly, why that took so long, we worked very hard with our borough engineer and the Monmouth County Open Space grant people and their attorneys to come up with a survey that showed, that carved out the right of way from the deed of open space.
So,
they carved out the right of way. Where was that? The 20-foot from the property line?
It's actually a surveyed right of way of what is not included in the deed of open space, which is what the mayor had spoken about before. It's the grassy edge in front of the fence, give or take.
Right. It's my understanding that that's borough property. According to open space 3 acres, that's actually borough property and not part of your open space. Right. But we do have an extra 20 feet from that property line to work with if it's for the park. So is there a way to get the borough involved in this along with
the borough is involved.
Let me do this because we're way beyond the 3 minutes, Chris, and we appreciate
spent a lot of time on chicken.
The energy of your advocacy, but discussing it further now doesn't move the ball because for us, the ball's now in the BOE's court.
How do I get it to be on the agenda for the council, like a chicken? How do I do that?
Chris, when we hear the answer from the Board of Education,
I don't want to wait for the answer from the board, Mayor, with all due respect. It's not the board's property, it's the borough's property. So how do I discuss it with the borough on how to use the 20 feet, on how to officially present it to the council? I'm asking you nicely, and you keep telling me to go to the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed does not have a say on borough property. You can give it to them, but you have
Okay, Chris, now you're being disrespectful. So let me repeat what we've said. We've already told the Board of Ed we're willing to give up the grassy area within our right of way. That's as far as we're going to go for them to use as they please. All right. Your plan calls for your parking concept to go onto their property, to cut back into their front yard. So if they decide that your design concept is valid, okay, then they've already have our acquiescence. It's their decision, and really it's up to their professionals to decide if they would like that. Then we have the concept of a traffic study, and along the way, we'll have to have the fire department and our traffic officers chime in on whether they want to close off or put in a cul-de-sac in front of a school. All right. So I understand you're very enthusiastic about your idea and your concept, but the tone is uncalled for. I told you we would move this forward. We are moving it forward. If it's not traveling at the speed you like, I apologize. This is government. All right. So let's go on. Would anybody else like to be heard?
I was hoping that the borough council would look at it.
Teresa?
How to do it.
McNeil.
Liz McNeil.
Hi, Liz McNeil, 193rd Street. I'm wondering, a lot of the towns are making calls and decisions at the council level about trick-or-treating on Halloween. And I wonder if you guys have put any thought into that.
I would say,
have we ever gotten involved even in Sandy? I was not participant to the government during Sandy, but that was a state level decision.
Yeah.
I don't know if the council ever got involved in that.
They did.
Liz, I'm all for trick or treating, and if it's people just putting buckets of candy on their front porch, I'm not sure if there are safety concerns in terms of people touching bags and then more people touching bags, and
I don't really know the answer. I just know that you've got a lot of parents who have just gotten through the start of school, and now they're looking at the next thing, which is Halloween and costumes, and they just don't know what to tell their kids. We're just trying to set reasonable expectations for our kids with trick-or-treating. It's not a big deal. And it didn't make sense for me to ask this question to the Board of Ed, I didn't think. I mean, the city of Los Angeles just tried to say no trick-or-treating at all, and then that went over like a lead balloon. So I figured that you guys would consider it.
Liz, I'm glad that
a
you
recommendation.
It's been on my mind as well. Having kids who are going to be thinking about candy and pumpkins and costumes very soon. So what I'm hearing from you is that you're looking for some, decision from the municipal leadership as to whether or not we're going to be making that decision, and if yes, what it is and when we'll make it, and if not, then the parents, in Fairhaven are going to have to make their own decisions, I guess. So I would think that the governing body can speak on this. Maybe it's something the rec committee wants to consider. I don't know if it necessarily falls under that purview, but definitely something worth us talking about to determine whether or not that's a decision we want.
I mean, there's other concerns
I will say that there will not be a
parade.
Parade.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rec committee's already made that decision.
Let me say this. I will put a call into my liaison of the governor's office. Not that that typically helps, because they never give an indication of what the next directive may be. He holds his card. The governor holds his cards very close to his vest. But I will inquire if there's guidance from the state. I think the guidance from the state for all such outdoor activities is to practice social distancing. The great thing about Halloween that I've seen some of the newspaper reports is that it does require the wearing of a mask typically. Okay, so and then I think it'll be the decisions of the parents on how they handle the candy. Now, if I would really look to the state on this issue for guidance and or health department, but I will put the call in to see if there's anything forthcoming.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something here?
Yes.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought this last couple of weeks. I knew this was going to be coming up. And I also spoke to some other OEM directors about this. And I was meeting to probably meet with the council or you next week, you and Borough Administrator, and discuss it. So I have some thoughts about it that we could discuss and maybe have a decision before the next council meeting. And that would still give people plenty of time to prepare.
Great. Thank you, Chief. All right. Any other good of the borough? Liz, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for bringing that up. We appreciate the
Good
thought.
question.
All right. Seeing none, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
So moved.
All right. That's it, folks. Motion to adjourn. We thank everybody for joining us and all your participations. That's a lot of good hard work. Much appreciation to the Fair Share Housing Committee for everything they've done and everybody else. Everybody have a wonderful evening.
Thanks.
Be well.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Done.
Second.
Second.
Bam.
Thank you.
Thanks.